Right, you're very welcome back. Kathleen McNamee is in Marbella. A tough sledding for you this week, Kathleen. How are you?
Yeah, it's a challenge, guys. But I'm getting through as best I can.
What's the weather like?
So yesterday apparently was the first sunny day, and that's when I arrived, and it was like 22 degrees.
Oh, it's tough, isn't it?
Today is supposed to hit about 25, so yeah.
This is like all...
I did get a little sunburnt yesterday, but I also get sunburnt in Dublin on a cloudy day, so that's not really saying much.
This is the women's version of Saipan, where they're going for, warm weather training, conditioning, making sure that the team is all bonded and gelled together. So far, so good from an organisational perspective. Nothing happening that we need to be aware of?
No, not from what I've seen. The team seemed very happy. They were complaining a bit that the weather wasn't all that nice up until yesterday, but apart from that, they just all seem like they're enjoying the camp. No one seems all that stressed out. I tried to joke with Vera Pauw that maybe she just enjoyed Marbella because it's the second time they've been here, that she'd like to go down to the beach for a little cocktail, but she wasn't having any of that. So
it is serious business. They played behind closed doors, I think, or certainly an uncapped game against Germany already, and then China today is proper caps.
Yeah, so they played an uncapped game against Germany. It was kind of weirdly split, like it wasn't a proper 45 minutes 11 versus 11. They kind of split it into thirds, and it was basically just a run out for the entire team. I talked to Vera Pauw yesterday, and she was just saying that for her, it's really important to come to one of these camps and not just have the team playing each other because the camp's 10 days long. So ahead of this game, she wanted them to have proper opponents. There was very little that came out about that game. They kept it very closed because they just wanted to do, I suppose, like see how the team gelled with the new players that are there. Even yesterday, I stayed for the training session, and about halfway through, they started playing a game, and I was kicked out because Vera Pauw didn't want people watching her tactics. So yeah, today they'll play China in a proper friendly, which people can watch, follow like off the ball. There'll be updates from me there, or you can watch it on RTE as well. And it'll be interesting to see how she plays the team, because from what I could see yesterday, they were doing a lot of work of getting the defenders to play out from the back, and it's something that we've long said that for this Irish team, we want them to do a little bit more of. So I'll be very interested to see how they actually line out.
The advantage of being there, Kathleen, is you get to almost press the red button and follow a player in training as you please, and you've been keeping an eye in particular on some individuals, Aoife Mannion being one of them.
Yeah, Aoife Mannion was really interesting because I've watched her a little bit in the WSL, but obviously she's been out for the last while with an ACL injury and hasn't really played all that much for United since she came back. And she looked sharp. I was quite impressed when I saw her in training yesterday. She was one of the players that I noticed particularly that was kind of taking on that role of defending and then trying to play the ball up forward to the likes of like Denise O'Sullivan, Heather Payne. And I feel like she could be a really interesting addition. When I did my power rankings the other week, she was one of the players that I thought could maybe sneak into the squad. So I would love to see her get a cap today and just actually see how she does in that sort of match day situation.
Katie McCabe's wearing a bit of strapping. Is that a concern or just a precaution, or do we know?
So the entire team is fit. The strapping, she got a dead leg, so it was more of a precaution than anything else. She wasn't wearing it yesterday when I saw her, and then she was wearing it for the game that they played just against each other. Like it was just kind of a 5v5. But she said just when she's in those sort of match situations, she just feels more comfortable wearing it. So I think it's just nothing to worry about at the moment.
How many people are actually in this group at the moment, and how many of them won't then therefore make the actual plane to go to the World Cup?
So this is a squad of 33, and then there's only 23 going to the actual World Cup. And the interesting thing with this is that when you consider goalkeepers in that as well, you're only looking at a squad of actually 20 players that are going to be playing, and plus there'll be a couple of reserves there, but they won't actually be on the plane. They'll have to fly over to Australia. Well, I'm sure they'll probably set themselves up there, but technically they won't be allowed on the official roster because FIFA said that they weren't going to allow squads of 26 players, which the majority of coaches wanted. So it's going to be really tough. And like, it was funny just watching all the players yesterday. They're all getting on really well. They're all chatting, having a laugh, and looking, being like, at least 10 of you aren't going. And the thing is as well, there was a bit of talk around the place that there might be even more players that are going to join that aren't already in the Irish squad. So it's it's an interesting dynamic. All the players are very much like, yeah, no, we're delighted. All the new people coming in are great. They're lovely. And I'm sure they are. But you can imagine if you were in that situation, you'd feel a little bit on edge about who might be coming in or who might take your place.
Yeah, you've got to be very careful about upsetting the squad who have fought tooth and nail to get to this point and then dropping a quarter of them for people who have suddenly discovered that they want to play for the Republic of Ireland.
Yeah, and I think Vera has talked about this quite a lot and said that, it's for her, it's obviously really important and that squad deserves to be recognised, the fact that they qualified. But she is also very firm on the fact that I want to bring the best squad that's going to actually win matches and do well there. And I think even when you see the sort of opposition that she set up for the next couple of months, there will be another team announced tomorrow about who they're playing. So I don't think she has loyalties, obviously, but I don't think she is also like absolute in those loyalties, and she is happy to bring people in if she thinks they'll win.
I presumably the players who were the best players are like, well, if it's going to improve the team, I don't really care, and we'll make friends, but we want to go and do as best we can. So that's the kind of cutthroat nature of high-end elite sport. The contract conversation keeps coming up and then getting pushed to one side. Is there anything bubbling in the air about whether or not Vera Pauw will still be our manager after the World Cup?
Not really. She was kind of, when she was asked about it yesterday, she just brushed it off and said that her main focus is the World Cup and that she doesn't really want to think about anything beyond that. I would be surprised if she stays on, if I'm honest, because she's always said that this would be a short-term thing, and I think she's probably already staying on a little longer than she intended to. She said for a long time that she wanted to get out of coaching. Maybe the Irish situation has given her the bug and she's going to stay around for a bit longer, but I don't know. I have a feeling that this isn't a long-term thing for her.
I guess there is a lot of focus, Kathleen, naturally on these Irish eligible players that have come in, Della Harp and Mannion, Marissa Shiva as well. It sounded yesterday from listening to Vera that she was considering another recruit potentially in the next camp in April. Like, clearly she's leaving no stone unturned in terms of a World Cup squad and players that could come in.
Yeah, like even I asked her about, so Australia are playing England in Wembley in April, and I was like, are you going to be sending scouts over to that? And she kind of laughed at me and she was like, I have scouts in games all the time, like across Europe. My team is always looking for either new players or looking at how the team, like the likes of Canada or Australia, how they're faring, who we're going to be facing. So and this is something Vera Pauw has always been very adamant on, is that she relies a lot on her team and she trusts her team to bring that information back to her. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are a few more players there. Like there was kind of rumours yesterday that there might be another one coming into the April camp. But Vera was very adamant that she wasn't talking about it. So I didn't get any dirt on who it may or may not be.
Okay, so no names just yet. Let's talk about Megan Connolly. We're going to play this interview a little bit later, but we're going to play a clip of it in just a moment. How important is she to the team? And obviously, how glad is she to be back now playing at this level?
She's really important. I mean, she's been one of our best players throughout the qualification process. And you look at that game versus Finland, like she was absolutely essential. And really interestingly, in that game yesterday, she was like all over the place in terms of positioning. Like she was at centre back and we asked her about it and she was like, yeah, it's not really my preferred position. I kind of prefer the midfield or on the wings, but I'll play wherever I'll play. But you look at that game against Finland, she played that game after her rib had punctured her kidney and she just played on. Didn't realise it at the time. Said like initially whenever I got hit, I was like, oh, that's sore. But the adrenaline just carried you through and she was like jumping around the pitch. And then it was only like a couple of hours later when she was kind of on her own and she said she was like passing blood. She kind of realised something was wrong. And a photo went up the next day on Twitter of her sitting in hospital with McDonald's being like, I'm okay, but I'm out for 10 weeks. And so that was really, she said that was really difficult for her because obviously she missed the Scotland game. She had to watch it at home with her parents, but she had a scan the next day. And I think that was kind of a couple of weeks out from her returning. And she just saw that as like, okay, right, I'm just going to enjoy this for what it is. I'm going to enjoy the fact I'm with my parents and I'm celebrating Ireland going to a World Cup. And I know I will come back and I will be better from it.
Okay. And China, should we beat them?
I don't know if we will beat them. Like, they're higher in the rankings than us. They have like a great history. In the 90s, they came second in the World Cup and in the Olympics. A lot of the team are based over in China. There's only a couple of players playing in Europe. So I think it'll be really interesting. They're a very technical side, which isn't necessarily something we come up against a lot and do all that well against, but I think it'll be a very good training for the World Cup.
All right, Kathleen, good stuff. Enjoy the sunshine and the game, of course, and all the work that you're doing in sunny Marbella.
Thanks, guys.
Not a spot for gangsters and socialites. Right.
Yeah, I don't know which one of those I fall into, but
there you go. More from Kathleen, of course, across the day on Off the Ball social channels and also on tomorrow's show as well. A reminder